So I saw an acronym on, I don't remember what news media website it was, but it was TSHTF. And I was like, okay. And I was like, of course, I go to Tom and I'm like, what does TSHTF mean? He's like, oh, it's when the shit hits the fan. They were talking about some sort of political thing, but we're going to talk about how to hold space when TSHTF.
That's a mouthful. I like, thank goodness it's Friday. I can do TGIF all day long, but that one doesn't come out, roll off the tongue so easily.
It doesn't flow. I'm like, it's only 5 letters, but it doesn't flow. And then of course my head in just in weird sense goes to like free TH4, like because there's
drug compounds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course you would.
No big deal.
Metabolic.
Exactly.
Yes, things. Sure. Why not?
Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about is how to hold space when the shit hits the fan. Where do we want to start with this topic?
Well,
I think we've had a lot of podcasts lately about, mental health, spiral of mental health. And I'm just sitting here recognizing that a lot of like videos I've done for our social media posts have been all about this same subject, which is, something that's happening directly in my family. And so you guys have been holding space for me and with me for weeks now. But I keep thinking that the shit has hit the fan, and then it hits the fan in a new and more glorious way. So it's been a long process. But because it's about, it's not about me, it's happening to me, but it's not about me. And so it's like one of those stories, like I can only tell a few people because it's not my story. So I know that and at some point with permission, I will be able to probably will do a guest after dark and we'll talk about it with my son, but it is, going on with my son. And it's something that is going to be a long process. And I don't know how long that process is, but it's a lot for me to go through. It's a lot. It's very heavy. It's almost like Cass and Kaylin, I don't know if I can talk about anything else, right? It's that heavy. So,
and I feel like what you're kind of talking about too is like when something happens, when the shit hits the fan, if you will, there's the epicenter of it. And then there's kind of the rings of influence of how it actually affects the people around. And you are so close to that epicenter nucleus of it that like, it makes sense that you feasibly like could not talk about or could not process or could not, like, that's all that's on your mind. It's ever consuming. And as you go out, yes, it's still consuming, but it consumes people less and less and less because they're not as directly connected.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And when it's, that's why I alluded to the fact that it was my son, because when it's your child that's suffering, it's a completely different level of engagement. So I heard a quote once, you're only as I'm gonna butcher it, but it was something about like you're only as happy as your child's do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
like there's almost like a threshold there.
Yeah.
Like a glass ceiling, if you will, of a cap of where your happiness can be when your kid's going through something.
Yeah, now I want to find that quote, but I won't take the time to do that now.
It might be in the show notes. It might not.
There you go. We'll put it in the show notes.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting though, but I think what we want to talk about today in relation to that is holding space. So for Cass and I, as supporters of you and your family, how are we holding space for you and, making room for you to be able to focus your energy on him? And then how are you able to hold space for yourself when you're that connected to the shit that is hitting the proverbial fan?
And then also how you're holding space for him, because you have kind of this dual polarity piece right now of like, okay, well, I need to take care of me. I need to put the proverbial oxygen mask on myself first, but you're in a very hard situation where you still have to help and put it on them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's this polarity that we can have a conversation about as well.
It's just, as you're saying all those words, it's just like this pit in my stomach, and I just want to cry. And that I can do with you guys, I know. So let's start with the easiest part for me to talk about, which is how you guys have held space for me so far, because you've done it beautifully. So you guys can teach a master class in how to hold space.
High five, Kaylin.
First of all, by never pushing me to talk about or share more than I want to. It's like literally saying we're here, and okay, we're checking in again, but we're here. Like, do you need anything? So not like forcing help. And then the second thing I think you've done is use your gifts to help me. So starting like with Cass, your gift of tapping in, your gift of being able to see, well, your psychic abilities, right? Your mediumship abilities. You ask me if I need that or want that, and I say yes, and you go there. And you are able to say really powerful and true things that feel right inside my body, things that I've already thought too, that bring me immense amounts of comfort. You know, never, and because I love your dark and my son is dark, there is this like, hey, I got you, like, let's, I love this kid. When you tap in, it's like you're not scared. You don't scare. Neither of you scare easily or at all. So there's that, and then for Kaylin, it's just, how we've talked about on this podcast a million times, she is, you just infuse lightness anytime, this kind of level of maternal sort of care that just makes me feel very held. And you do cute things like when you sent me Venmo money and all the little emojis of alcohol, like you're probably gonna need a drink. It's like champagne glasses, wine glass. I'm like, yes, you're brilliant. Just kind of like saying, more lighthearted. And I appreciate that a lot. And then never, ever making me feel pressured. Like, if I can't, go take the time you need, go take the time you need. And there isn't any other job where I would feel this true freedom to take what time I need. And it makes me, and because I love our work so much, I find solace in working, right? So that's how you have been holding space for me thus far. And it's been really helpful. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Ooh.
Thanks, iMessage.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm keeping that in there. I'm like messages from spirit just coming on through. So it's really interesting is like going back to that kind of epicenter analogy. Kaylin was in the middle of the birth process during this. Yeah, I was actually on the phone with you, I think, during the inception of this.
Yeah, you were on a very important phone call. Kaylin was in labor. Mm-hmm. We were having a Zoom meeting, and I got a call, and I'm like, oh, it's the hospital. I thought that it was going to be a short conversation, but it ended up being like a half an hour. And Cass just literally held space for me by staying on the phone call with me and just stayed there, and had to hear the whole thing and the exchange.
And it
Didn't
was
have to hear the whole thing. I could have easily hung up, but it also,
Yeah.
what's really
You-
nice. So it's funny because I sat there and I was like, do I hang up? Like,
right.
I was like,
Because I didn't
this-
mute it. I just put the computer on the bed. I'm like, Cass, there, just stay there for a minute.
I'm like, this seems private. Not that we don't record every private conversation. So it feels
correct.
poetic. Do I hit record on the podcast? No, I don't do that. Do I get off the phone? No, I don't do that.
You did it
The
right.
dilemma.
You just stayed there and you held space. And
But what's nice is we didn't have to use any of your words. We always tell Jade to use her words. Kaylin and I, that's like our go-to phrase.
Mhm.
We didn't have to use her words in that case. And I think that's really important too, is this sometimes you need words and sometimes you don't in these spaces. Sometimes you can infer, feel, absorb everything you need to without words, and other times it's necessary. So this was one of the cases where like we didn't say, Jade, use your words.
Yeah. It's we just had a podcast recently about birth, right? Then bringing a new baby into the world. And it's like the story that is true, that every birth story is different. Well, any mother or father listening to this knows that every child is so different. It's you don't get used to being a parent. Like every child is a whole completely new journey. And I have so many firsts with my youngest and my son, that he's just teaching me how to be human in a completely different way. And it's a lot, but
Scary.
I'm really grateful for it. But I think, Cass, something you said that really helped, and I'm gonna let you say it because I'm a little weepy right now, but you were talking about how to trust that he's ready to go through some things right now, that if he didn't go through them now, he'd have to wait till he was in his 20s because they're based in a lot of, just generational trauma, etc. Can you kind of say that again, or do you even remember saying it? You often don't.
I could probably remember it better than Cass could.
No,
Right.
So what I was saying in that case, when I was kind of connecting in, is there was and is it's in the process of leaving so much generational trauma that's kind of been passed down lineage wise. And hey, you've walked through your fair share. Your girls have walked through their fair share. He's going to walk through his fair share. But the difference is that he was ready before some of your other daughters were ready.
Yeah.
So like that may appear, for some that they're ready when they're 20 or 24 or whatever, 26, like whatever the case may be. Some may actually like expel like kind of these generational chains and patterns during like the birthing process of their own children. Well, your son is just ready when he's 14, which is much younger than most. And it manifests in a way that it can actually happen at 14 in a way that's palatable for a 14-year-old. So that's kind of when I was connecting in, and there, like you had mentioned, there's a ton of similarities. I don't know chart wise, but I'm sure you could dive into that, but there's just a ton of similarities between personality wise, energy wise, absorption wise, empathy wise, that I kind of get when I look into him. I'm like, and of course, like there's my piece of the story too, where I had, a loss of a baby that would have been about the age of your son too. So there's that kind of mama heart of mine too.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, there's so many parallels in there that I'm like, oh, I love him. I have this natural like mother affinity kind of piece for him for many different reasons, but some of those are those kind of like those darker aspects, those transmuting aspects, those kind of pieces of a healer that he is developing at really, really young.
Yeah.
I think what's so beautiful too about that is, Jade, as long as I've known you and you've shared about your children, you've always said that he is wise beyond his years. You've always said that. You have. And so you know that within you, that he is, even though he is 14 and that is so young, he is wise beyond his years.
Yeah.
There you can find comfort in that, and that he is ready for this, and that this though is hard, is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing that's really important to say as far as just holding space is, and again, we alluded to this during the birth podcast episode, which I find, these crazy parallels between you, Kaylin, who are at the beginning of a journey, right? And I'm kind of in the middle of this journey with my son. But how you talked about in your birth story, how you used the supernatural, and we use woo, and we also use Western medicine because we're in a Western culture, and we'll unturn every rock, right? Upturn every rock. And that is what I'm doing as well. Like, I don't put all of my faith or my trust in Western medicine, but I have respect for it, and I will, follow those roads down as long as it makes sense. And I appreciate how I can bounce that off of you guys too. You both have a lot of knowledge as far as, how the system works, and how, and Kaylin with your in-depth knowledge of psychology and different medicines and drugs, so to speak. It just is very helpful to have that kind of practical wisdom that you guys bring, because I will use all of it. I will, shaman this, astrology that, psychiatrist this, like whatever needs to happen. Like, I will knock on every door to make sure he's safe. And Cass, you didn't have a me when you were his age. And I will be, for him, what so many kids don't have.
Yeah. And that's super redemptive for you as well, in a lot of senses.
Yeah, so I didn't have me either, right?
Kaylin, which the birth episode comes out next. So that's what we keep alluding to. You're going to have to listen to another episode after this one.
Correct.
But Kaylin called her birth redemptive just because of the whole relationship. You'll have to listen to that episode, but about the NICU and about, what she wanted and how she wanted baby Kennedy to manifest and all of the things. And then Jade you have a redemptive kind of motherhood story in this that is in the process of being built and in the process of being, told right now. And although the redemptive doesn't necessarily mean easy. It
doesn't mean beautiful.
It doesn't mean beautiful until the end, I think. But the path of getting there doesn't necessarily it isn't paved in gold. I think it was, one of our clients has a podcast. What is it? Kintsugi?
Kintsugi, yeah.
Okay. Where they have the Japanese artwork that is the shattered piece of artwork that they kind of mold back and kind of gild back with like a gold kind of vein to it. But they literally take a piece of beautiful pottery and break in order to recreate something even better and something even more beautiful and something even more with depth. So I feel like that is the process that you are kind of walking through right now.
Yeah, 1,000%. And we have some even more interesting pieces where my mom just happened to be visiting in the middle of all of this. And there's a lot of pieces of that relationship that are very fraught. And I can see very clearly why that all happened at once. And something I am beyond grateful for is the way that my daughters, who are all, adults, have circled the wagon, so to speak, around me and around their brother. That has been one of the most redemptive pieces of this, for sure.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That sibling bond.
Yeah. And just to have them as adults, it's not that it isn't affecting them deeply, but they are able to bring, a lens of adult lens with them. And it's really powerful and helpful. So
there's also that element too, again, kind of going back to that redemptive word, that you've instilled all of these teachings into them. And this is kind of like hardwiring and solidifying it when you do not have to be like the teacher right now. Like, you get to absorb, you get to be the mother, but you don't have to like try to teach your girls lessons in amongst there because they've already absorbed those.
Yeah. That's been very, very, I can't even put a word on what that feels like to watch your adult children just already be who you hoped and dreamed and manifested and prayed that they would be, and they're just there. And that is, there is nothing more powerful, I think, as a mother than that feeling of just like, wow, it's gonna be okay because look at that, look at them fly, and then they're helping me through it too. So there's so many things to be grateful for in amidst this journey, which is really just beginning. So
and that is a very different way to get through a journey than I feel like A, you would have in the past, or B, most people do.
right.
Like to actually like go through the shit, to go through the hard, to go through the breaking down reconstruction process and still be like, there's so many things to be grateful for. There's so many beautiful things.
Yeah.
Like, look at how X is handling, look at how this, look at how that, like you're able to kind of see, which is so poetic as to what you do, but see from this higher realm, this higher lens, this higher kind of dimension of like the orchestration of all the things. Like, of course your mom was there. Of course you were in Costco, which Costco is the most healing sanctuary out there. I'm telling you, Kaylin and I attest to this.
I don't think Kaylin even knows the Costco story.
I don't.
Just know that Kaylin already knows that Costco's healing, though.
I do. I love Costco.
In short, my son does not weep very often. He has no water in his chart. He does not cry, but he broke down in the middle of Costco. And before you know it, we were in the middle of an aisle and my mom was part of that, which was pretty crazy. And all my girls were there except for Alana. And we were all doing this huge group hug, all openly sobbing in the middle of a Costco aisle. And it was really busy. And there was like no thought in any of our heads that we didn't care. We couldn't not do that. Like it wasn't a choice. Just walk on by. Like just walk.
Just keep moving. Just ignore.
Sorry if you needed the Keurig cups that we're currently blocking. You're just gonna have to pick a different type of coffee.
We were in the big aisle with the freezer on either side, like the fruit and the dairies on the other side. That's the aisle we were in, just for visual. That's a good aisle.
That's a good aisle. I think I've had some religious experiences in that aisle.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is like so amazing.
Like ugly cry, all of us.
My only text message back to her, I was like, I knew Costco was a healing sanctuary.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Jade doesn't like it. Jade's like, I have to go to Costco. Kaylin and I are like, you get to go to Costco.
Yeah, that's a privilege.
Oh my God.
This podcast is not sponsored by Costco. Unless you guys want to, please reach out, slide into DMs.
Let's chat.
So I think there's also this element of holding space, is like knowing when to be serious and to have that kind of solitude, but then also to be able to put a positive spin on a breakdown in Costco.
Absolutely. You have to be able to keep laughing.
So
yeah. Mm-hmm. So much of what we go through is a matter of perspective. It's just
all of it
on the daily, all of it, right?
All of it.
So a lot of holding space, I think, for someone is just sitting with them and giving gentle nudges to, just help them remember a different perspective or see things differently.
Correct. Agreed.
So I have a question for you, Jade. How have you, or how would you like to hold space for yourself? I know that might be a hard one.
Yeah, that one is a lot trickier. I can say all the things that are true, which go outside, go on a walk, make sure you're eating nutritious food. We
don't want a canned response on girlfriend.
Exactly. So
I need a bullshit button.
Exactly.
Those things are helping me, but honestly, I'm still figuring that out. because a lot of the things that have worked for me in the past are not working right now because it's too dark and it's darker and it's different and there's no escaping this kind of pit in my stomach. And so I'm figuring that out like as I go. Honestly.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, I'll put words in your mouth and you can agree or disagree, Jade is kind of honing and using all of her skills of what a yes feels like in her body and what a no feels like. And you've known those things and you've used those things and you've practiced those things, but it's like just a unit, like bullied by the universe to like level 3.0 of like, are you sure that's a yes? Are you sure that's what you need right now? Are you sure that's where you should go right now? It's really like forcing you to kind of hone in even further on your intuition, even further on, you know, what it is that you need, even further on how best we can support you, even further on how best you can support yourself. Like it's a kind of showing up, refining process right now from what I see.
Yeah, that's well said, Cass, because in the past I had, this is what the Bible says, this is what the church said. I would have run directly to pastor and I do run directly to therapist, but at the end of the day, I have to go inside and get those answers from my own knowing. And I can ask for help and am asking for help all the time, from my spirit team but I'm not subscribing to any one way of this is the right way. I'm having to intuit that. And that is harder in so many ways than just subscribing. But yeah, right. That's getting refined. Yeah. Yeah. Well, more to come. Thanks.
Sorry to leave everyone on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. We're like, check out part 2 again for the 9,000th time. No. Is there any final words? I feel like of advice from a like kind of sage advice that I get that you have for a listener who may be listening to this and who's like also having things proverbially.
Yes, you did it.
When shit hits the fan. Also advice for yourself is what I'm basically forcing you to do.
Right. Exactly. Sometimes there's no way through it but through it. Like I have a lot of, especially because of my nature, a lot of ability usually to do something about it. So you guys can both like relate to this.
Absolutely.
Like we will make the list, we will check it twice. We will do this, and then this and this that will happen.
Then we'll take off our earrings, put up our hair, and fight if we have to.
And there's no, I keep trying to do that, and there's no way to get around it or over it. I have to go through it. So that backs everything up to a minute by minute kind of existence where you have to literally check in with yourself like every few minutes and be like, I'm still here. This is what I can do right now. And that's it. And then you just take the next step and you say it again. So, I mean, be present. You have to be present.
What just came to me, and it is making me emotional for you, Jade. This feels so reminiscent to the way that I felt when Hayden was in the NICU.
Yeah.
Like you are at the mercy of other people. And like I wanted to sign those, AMA forms and take my baby out of there. Yeah. But it was like I couldn't. I didn't have control. Yeah. And I just wanted control. And there's no controlling it. Once you're in it, you just, like you said, you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
And it can be the hardest thing when you've never gone through anything like that before. You have no experience and you are at the mercy of other people's opinions and other people's knowledge and background.
and they get the say.
I feel like kind of what I'll leave you guys with too is there is a phrase in Peruvian shamanism specifically, and it's the shortest way out is through.
Yeah, there you go. That sums it up.
The shortest way out is through, and you guys are listening to the through. So if you guys are going through the through, we're with you.
Absolutely.